Hi, I'm following along with Paul McWhorter's Raspberry Pi Pico W lessons. He's on number 15, and that was a review of loops. He's still working through the beginner stuff on this on MicroPython and I think it's great that he's bringing everybody along with him on this, not just expecting everybody to know the basics of coding before we start. I enjoy every lesson and watch it and try to learn a little bit more, especially if I plan on teaching some MicroPython at the library this summer. So um, I just enjoyed that, but didn't really want to do homework because it was a straightforward homework thing that Paul offered. But I was looking at it and I was thinking, and I looked at a couple of the others. We're only a couple days from the video, and he's already got a couple of people doing turning in homework for it. Uh, both of them are pretty good homework, and this guy here, he had ended up putting Kevin. He put a repeat ability to put a repeat in his colors. Um, I thought that was a nice touch for it. But anyhow, both of those were like 60 to 8 to 90 lines of code and a lot of if statements and everything else. And I was wondering if it might be easy, might not be easier, but it'd be what I could do by using the built-in stuff with Python, using list and list comprehension, which also uses the for loop. List comprehension does to see how compact I could actually make this code. So let's get to Thorny. So I ended up the code when you make it compact, it's not really readable, I guess. So, not really great for beginners, but just figured I'd show what you can do with Python to make it uh, um, readable for people. So up here where we're defining, I'm just importing pin and PWM from machine and sleep from time. And then normally I got 3 lines of code here, and usually that's be 9 lines of code for if you didn't use the list comprehension to do this. So what I'm doing is creating PWM objects, a list of them. So Paul likes to call them arrays, but they're actually called list in Python, list and tuples. They got the curve brackets are tuples. If they got the square brackets are list. So this is actually a list of tuples down here. But anyhow, but you can use this list comprehension where you're creating a PWM for each P in these 3 pins. So pin number or GPIO 11, 12, and 13. And it's going to work through this list and it's going to create a PWM object and it's going to make a list of them and we're calling that list RGB. So it's going to create 3 PWM objects. And then on this next line, we have to set the frequency. So we're doing that by using for F in RGB. So it's going to work through all 3 of the RGB PWM objects, and it's going to set the frequency at 1,000. And we're doing the same thing on the next line, setting the duty cycle to 0 so they're off to begin with. So the next thing I thought about doing was, well, Paul gave us a specific group of colors that he wanted to do, and so I said, okay, so we're going to have to input those text colors. So I created another list, a list of string objects, text string objects, and I got the colors, and I did that. And then and if you notice, there's 9 items here, and then I also created a duty 3. So this is a tuple of the 3 colors. I really dislike the 65 535 thing. So what I'm doing here is going between 0 and 1. If you notice, I got a 0.4 here and a 0.2 here or something for orange. Um, 0 and 1, and then down later in the code, I just multiply that by the 65, 535. That way I don't have to think in big numbers. 0 to 1 is fine with me, and like I say, you could do whatever fractions you wanted to, but you don't need 65,000 different value or intensities of that LED, each LED. So, and most of the time we're turning them either on or off. So 1 is all the way on and 0 is all the way off. And like I say, you can just go with a fraction for anything in between. So I created these, so they are matching up to the green and the blue, the cyan, magenta, yellow, orange, white, and black. So they're matching up to it. And then we go into our while true loop. And what we're doing is we're printing out, just as text says, color choices and the colors. And what it's going to do is it's going to print out this list so we know what our choices are. And then we're doing an input. And I decided to, instead of going individual colors on each input, I said, well, just give us a comma separated list of colors. And so that's what we're doing. And you're getting the colors up here in a comma separated list. And then we also, Paul said, well, how many times do you want to loop through that list of colors that you got? So we're also doing number of loops there, input. So we're getting 2 input things here. So now we're doing what, like I said, the reason I was able to make this code compact is because you're able to do a lot of manipulation of list and also string objects. So when we get this string object in here called color list, it's just one big string object. But we can do this split, clist.split, and we can split on the comma, it's separated, so we're splitting on the comma. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us another list, and it's going to be individual values of the colors, each in a each list with each color in it. I could have probably shortened this a little bit more, but I had to do some error detection in here. Thought it'd be better to have a little bit of error detection. So what this one here does is if you put, like, if I put red comma space blue or something like that in my comma separated list, if I put an extra space in there, if you don't do this line here, it leaves the spaces in. And so what this does is it, for each item in this C split list, it's going to strip out any of the blank lines, the spaces or whatever. It's going to strip them out. And then we're just copying it back into C split. But this actually takes all the colors, takes all the spaces out just so that they match up to our colors list, because they don't have spaces in there. Okay, now we get into where the fun starts. So like I said, we picked out how many number of loops we want to do. So that's the outermost 4 loop that we're doing. So we're just doing how many of our loops. So we're doing 0 to num loops minus 1. And then we're doing a for loop for the C split. Now this is now the ones that don't have any spaces in it. And we're working through each of the items in that list. And we're also, here's some more error correction. If you happen to misspell a color or you put a color that's not in our list, then you're going to get this exception. It's actually a value error exception, but I'm taking any exception here on this. It's the only one that you're going to get. I could have put value error and it would have worked just as well. But, and then we're just printing that whatever C was, say if C was chartreuse, then it would say chartreuse is not a valid color. And it would just drop out and it wouldn't do this. If doing this raised an error, then it would do that. So what we're actually doing here is we're getting the index of our list. So we're taking our C. So let's say we had a R, red is our first color in our C split list. So it's going to say, okay, well, where's the index in colors? What index is C at? So we can go back up here. So C was red, so it's index 0. So that's going to give us IDX is going to be 0 in this case. Now this is the one that does all the fun for us, and let me see if I can try to explain this without stumbling over it too bad. So we're going to need a couple things. We're going to need the duty cycle that we want to get, and that is stored in these numbers multiplied by 635. So this is a list within a list, so it's going to have to index a variable. Each one of these variables, you're going to have 2 brackets here to get it out. So, but the DC is, we're going to go through our RGB. So that is going to be the R PWM, our G PWM, and our B PWM, because RGB is a list, so we're going to work through that list. And then we use this enumerate because we also want the index of those things, because we need index to put in here. So let's just go through that. So we're going to take our list. We're going to start with the R and the R object. So we're going to set our R PWM object. We're going to set the duty cycle. And what we're doing is we're pulling out this duty 3, and we're using the IDEX that we got up here. So that is the top level. So we had red was 0, so it's going to use this tuple here. So that's the first IDEX is going to say, well, we know it's in here, and the X is going to be the R, G, or B for that. So we're going to work our way through it, and we're going to set it, the duty cycle. So we're going to set, okay, so we got 1. So the first item in here is going to be 1 times 65,000, 65,535. And then we're going to check the green, and it's a 0. So 0 times that is 0, and 0 times that is 0. So all you're going to get is the red. So it does that for each one of them, and sets the RGB for all 3 of the RGB colors based on what we have in this duty 3 up here for that index. So we're able to use the power of Python's list manipulation and string manipulation, and also they get that working, and they call this list comprehension when you do it like this, because you're putting a for loop and you're doing all your list work all in one. So you got your X and your DC that you're able to use here as it works through the list. And then, like I said, it's going to print out that, and it's going to sleep a 2 between each one. And then the very last line of code, it's going to set all the duty cycles to 0 again. And then it's going to, while true, it's going to start over and put the list of colors. So I can show it working. Let's see. We'll just run it. And we got, like I say, color choices, and we're just printing out that list of colors that we got. So, and it's asking us enter a comma separated list of values. So we're going to go in there. So let's do red, comma, black, comma, green. All right, so that's all I'm going to put in there. Okay, and then how many times do you want to loop through that? We'll just loop through it twice. I don't know how much you'll be able to see this, but and plus it's the colors aren't very true. And then when we hit the enter, red, black, green, red, black, green, and then off. And it's asking us again, here's your list of colors, do what you want to do. So, like I said, we could put in here the red, and if I put comma space blue, that space, if you didn't have that line of code up here where I'm taking out, stripping out the spaces, it would be a problem for it. But we can do that, and we can hit enter and say 2, and we'll just get it going again. Red, blue, red, blue, and off. There we go. Now, what if I said red and pink? We don't have a pink, so enter, and 2, and it's going to go red, but then it says on my console, pink is not a color, and then it went to red again because, and then pink is not a color. So I got error correction in there and everything, so you pretty much, as long as you're putting something in there that would work. I don't know whether I think you could put anything comma separated. If you put like, what if we did 2 comma separated? So comma, comma, blue. I don't know. This may break it. And I haven't tried this yet. So we'll just do it 2 times. And it probably should say blank is not a color, but we'll see. Do a red, blank is not a color. There we go. All right. So I know this is not for beginners, but I just wanted to use my brain a little bit today and try to come up with as short a program as I can. I think Charlotte probably could maybe take a couple lines out of this by using her, which library is that? It's the, what is that library called? Pico something. Pico Zero library, I think it's called. I can't even find it. I had it up here for a while, but maybe it's not there anymore. But I think it's her Pico Zero library that she has. It has an RGB item right in it where you can actually set an RGB using colors. You could use these tuples right in it. So she could probably get it down below 20 lines of code with her library. But I just wanted to see how I could do it with just using the basic libraries that come with the Pico. So that's my video for today. Like I said, 22 lines of code. Not super readable, but it just shows what you can do with Python. Sure beats, you know, like I say, the other 2 examples had 60 and 90 lines of code. So anyhow, that's my video for today. Thanks for watching. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks, Paul, for all you're doing.